The truth does not become less powerful because it is uncomfortable. The truth is that the more the truth is avoided, the more power it holds. Growth begins the moment people face the truth directly. Remember, you don't build freedom by spending your money everywhere except in your own community. As long as your economy is controlled by someone else, your future will also be controlled by that same someone else. Real independence begins with taking full ownership. Time is more important than distance. You may be able to get somewhere faster if you move when the time is right. But if you wait for too long, you may never get there at all. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, peace-loving people of Plateau State. Glad to be welcoming you to the Thursday edition of your #1 dynamic socio-political breakfast tonic and conscience-speaking program on radio. Political update coming to you live on Silverbird, Rhythm 93.7 FM here in the city of Jos. Today is 26326. That is the 26th day of the 3rd month of the year 2026. This one program, we try our best to ensure that we bring up issues from the hinterland to the city center to the national level and even beyond the shores of our continent as far as they concern me and you directly or indirectly. And we try our best to analyze them to the best of our ability, place the options logically with real data on the table and allow you to make your own choice and informed decisions. My name is Pam Dunquiz, and of course, the King of Boys, Ambassador Bello Lukman, who is already logically seated to give us analytical directive on political update, is already seated to take us down our destination of 12 noon with political analysis. Bello, good morning and thank you for the restaurant you gave me yesterday.
Morning, Pam Dunquiz, a dependable, formidable ally. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, egalitarian passengers that listen to us out there with better bread. Special good morning to the three musketeers who go, the fine boy journalists, to me behind the Facebook, to me Andrew, and not forgetting David Friday, who is the intercessor and the intermediary between we and you out there, and he is also ensuring that we have a seamless output out there. Good morning to you and all the Democrats out there. God bless you all.
All right, today we'll be opening the phone lines early enough for you to add your voice on the program, but remember, emotions and sentiments and bigotry are too luxurious for us on this platform. We cannot afford them, so please try as much as possible to throw away every form of sentiment or emotion and allow reasoning to actually take the better part of us. Bello, if you are ready, before we take the first story on the Punch newspaper, we have a very, very saddening news, if you ask me, or heartbreaking news, because the more we see things like this, the more we hear things like this, we begin to ask ourselves, when are we going to get it right? Are we still going to wait until another one happens? Then probably one script that probably is kept somewhere will be read to us that indeed we also gave them a deadly blow. Can we continue giving them that deadly blow until they are completely erased and eradicated, or we continue to dilly-dally and keep rolling and rigmaroling like the Bible Saloon chair? The news has it this morning that no fewer than 11 soldiers and a police officer were killed somewhere in Kebbi when they got an alert, a distress call rather, to go and respond to that distress call. They were ambushed. The question is, what do we normally do in advanced countries below? We have seen it even in movies. These are things that they do, and they now give us an example of what they do in movies. People are security men on going on patrol. They ensure that there are snipers almost everywhere to give those ones that are moving cover in case there's going to be any form of ambush. Unfortunately, below, we have almost lost count of how many of our security men have been killed from Plateau to Borno to Niger to Kwara and other parts of the country, and now we are still counting more dead bodies. Below, one soldier by standard, by global standard, is supposed to be a military man to at least 500 to 1,000 civilians. So if 11 of them have gone, that means more than 11,000 people are without security.
Quiz, it's saddening, it's also beastly, it's barbaric, it's agonizing, and it has caused a lot of pain, tears, agony, and even grief in the home of these particular soldiers. 11 soldiers are not 11 vigilantes. 11 soldiers are not 11 Boy Scouts. 11 soldiers are those that have gone through the rudiments and they've been able to be commissioned, and today they actually answer the name soldier. Go and see what you go through to be called a soldier in this country. And in some cases, the officers are also involved, and you can count the number of officers that we've also lost just this year alone. It's just a failure of intelligence, and it's also an indication that we are not very, very serious about the protection of our people, because our attention right now is on 2027 election. And I continue to ask the question, if half of the attention that we are giving to 2027 is actually applied to the protection of our soldiers, to the protection of Kebbi, to the protection of Plateau, to the protection of Nasarawa, to the protection of FCT, to the protection of Benue, to the protection of Zamfara, to the protection of Niger, then I assure you that indeed the people will be the ones to be angling for this political party, the APC, to continue in power, because it was the nonchalance and the lethargy of the PDP that made the APC win election in 2015. Can we beat our chest to say that by 2019 the people were satisfied? Like the United States of America president would always act. A Ronald Reagan will ask you, has your life been better than it was before we came in? If it is, then vote for this particular administration. If not, then look for an alternative. That's exactly the question that Nigerians will be asking going into a 2027 election. That's why whenever I see people criticizing this government, as far as security is concerned, I allow that to sail. Because that might be the game changer. That might be the elixir. That might also make them to become very serious about the issue of security. The only contract, the major one for that matter, primary for that matter, that binds the people and the government together, because nobody is allowed to hold even a machete. Just take a machete, Pamdo Kus, now, and leave Plateau Hospital roundabout. Then pass through the police headquarters with the machete. Make sure the policemen see you.
And you are wielding it.
Then wave them. Then you return again and wave them and see whether you will be able to sleep in your room in Basa local government that you love so much that even at 6 p.m. you tell me that you want to go back home. Because there's a difference between a house and a home. And to Pamdon Quiz, a home is always domiciled in Basa local government. Now they will give you a self-contained room in the headquarters to pass the night. And whether you like it or not, you might end up in court. It might spiral into days. It might spiral into weeks. And this is what is called a social contract. Because legally speaking, scientifically and logically, me, you, Timi, Ugo, and any other person out there is not allowed to hold a catapult. We are not allowed to hold a damn gun. But then the authority is allowed. That's exactly the reason why when they are not actually doing their part in terms of protection of life and property, people like us will shout us. Because that's exactly the main thing that binds us together with the entire security, with the entire government. So now that our people, because the soldiers we are talking about are people's breadwinners, they are people's fathers, they are people's uncles, they are people's only children, and now they've actually been decimated, decapacitated by the bandits that we are looking for. Then you ask yourself, why are we not having, for example, the Tucano aircraft that we are told is the game changer? Immediately it was bought. $1 million was what we paid to get one of those Tucano aircraft. And it was even this Donald Trump in 2020 that was able to facilitate that particular Tucano aircraft for us in the country. But I have not heard in the news where we are told that indeed because bandits were striking in a place, the Tucano aircraft was the game changer that actually went there to surprise and also to protect the people. So it's just glaring, it's just obvious that there's something we are not hearing. Because we didn't hear, for example, of the aircraft bombardment of these people. And I always say that we should have, for example, soldiers that their own job is to wait until they hear that these people have attacked a place. Our main responsibility right now, our main aim and vision is to eliminate Lakurawa. Our main aim is to eliminate Mahmuda terrorists. Our main aim is to eliminate bandits and kidnappers. Our main aim is to eliminate Boko Haram members. And when we hear that they are striking in a place, you should be able to see emergency response from distress call to the police, to the Navy, to the DIA, to the BG, and every security architect to show that indeed we are actually battling the people we are looking for. But when we hear that when this attack was happening, there was no response from the Navy, there was no response from the Air Force, there was no response from the DSS, there was no response from the NIA. So what exactly is the fight all about? Is it about iconism? Is it about symbolism? Is it about just to get the budget? We have had different operations in different names in this country, battling the same people. We have had different appropriation coming from the Senate. We have had different appropriation coming from the executive arm of government. Why are we not justifying the amount that we are spending to be able to give to Nigerians a lot of confidence building, a lot of hope, so that we can also really run away from despair, we run away from despondency and hopelessness?
Bello, let's pay some bills. We'll be right back. When we return, we'll continue. This is Political Update. Stay here. All right, welcome from the break. Still Political Update going on live on Silverbird, Rhythm 93.7 FM here in the city of Jos. Bello, before we went on that break, you were actually bearing out your mind and asking salient questions to ascertain what is our priority and where is the minds of our leaders as far as national issues are concerned. Bello, yesterday we took up a story. One Hamis Abdullahi, a 38-year-old resident of Suleja, Nigeria, was detained for 5 days after shouting, "No water, no light." Bello, also a Nigerian student, Aminu Adamu Mohammed, accused of defaming Aisha Buhari and was arrested. Bello, we have lost count of people that were arrested simply because they spoke the truth to power. Can you also remember the core member that was threatened that she would serve another year because she criticized this government? But now the question is that really a priority? We remember very well one young man that was picked and detained simply because he bought a SIM card that was said to be used by the daughter of the late President Muhammadu Buhari, and he was detained. And when they were saying that the lady needs to come before they can release this guy, she was somewhere outside this country. So I asked this question: what is our priority? Are we really enjoying what is happening, or are we actually enjoying the kind of enslavement? Because the more the first line of defense is weakening, Bello, forget about it. In every football, we have the striker. The striker is always expected to do what? To disturb the defense of the opponent. Then we also have the supporting strikers, which is maybe two people that will also support the striker to ensure that whenever he is there to disturb the defense, they can always give him passes to always score goals. Bello will have the midfielders that always ensure that the enemy or the opposite team or the opposition does not cross the center. Even when they cross, they ensure that they keep them at bay and far from the goalpost. But when they get to the defense, that is where you have at least the four people that are always defending. It depends on the formation you use. If that defense is broken, Bello, there's nothing the goalkeeper can do than to try his best to see whether he can either punch the ball outside out of the pitch or to allow it to enter the net. So now the defense is crippling, is being crippled rather gradually. What becomes of the goalkeeper? Because we are the goalkeepers who end up receiving the bullets if they pass the defense.
Once, for example, Pamdon quiz, this can happen to your soldiers. That's your first line of defense. Then what happened to civilians? That's exactly the analogy that Pamdon quiz is asking. And if you watch the match between Man City and Arsenal on Sunday, you discover that at the time that the goal was scored, I just see people blaming Kepa. And I asked the question, at that moment, before that goal was scored, the pressure was just too much. And it's because of the fact that you have the likes of Kai Havertz and the rest inside that could not even hold their own in the attack. So definitely, the entire attack of Man City will come against you. Why do we always wait until these bandits attack, until these terrorists attack, before we go after them? In this particular case, the distress call was to the effect that this particular bandit, this particular terrorist, this nihilist group were approaching a construction company.
Yeah.
And the security outfit responded, not knowing that they've been ambushed. Who knows whether it was even the terrorists themselves that gave that call, because they are always 10 yards away, 10 yards ahead of our security, and we give it to these our heroes, because if they were cowards they wouldn't have responded. But they responded because they needed to save the entire people of Shanghai local government area. Adewa local government area in the same Kebbi is another place that these bandits are also operating. Bagudo local government area of Kebbi state is another place these people are operating. And the people in this local government have been shouting fast, they have been very bombastic, about the SOS, save our soul call to the entire security, and they've been talking that indeed they are not safe. So that means that we need to look for where they are hibernating, where they are launching their attacks from. That is exactly our priority, to attack. Not for us to wait until they attack. Then we will now be sending soldiers to that place, at the end of which they've disappeared from that place and they're already hiding in another place. By this morning, we should hear that aircraft are flying all over Kebbi. We should hear that they are looking for where these people are hiding and where they are also launching attacks from. Not to wait until another attack occurs, then we will send soldiers there. I saw the governor of Kebbi in the hospital yesterday saying that every medical expense will be paid for by the government, as if that is an achievement. Should the attack have happened in the first place? In February, 33 people were killed after Lakurawa terrorists launched simultaneous attacks on 8 communities in the Arewa local government area of that same Kebbi. And the police spokesperson Bashir Usman said the assailant crossed from Sokoto State. So we know where they are coming from. But what effort did we make to ensure that at least we stop them from this particular effort? They were actually able to occupy the entire area and they've been able to launch the attack from there. A week later, the same group attacked a mosque, killing 5 worshippers, injuring 3 others in a reprisal following a failed ambush on the convoy of the Nigerian Army GOC. You can just imagine the audacity of these people. You can imagine their sophistication, that they are even angry and infuriated, and they are showing their outrage because they attempted to attack the GOC and they did not succeed, and most of their members were killed. They became infuriated and angry, and they were able to launch attack on a mosque where innocent people were worshipping and they were praying the Tarawih prayer. So where is the outrage supposed to come from? Is it not supposed to come from the conventional security? Is it supposed to come from the nihilist group? But then this is also an indication that indeed our security architecture is also getting weakened. Because how do you explain a situation where these people, in terms of their quality of their gadgets and their equipment, they are even more sophisticated than our security? And it's also obvious that the quality of gadgets, the quality of equipment that our security is using might not also be of the best. Look at the sophistication of the armed groups. Look at their training. Look at their operational capacity. That is just an indication. It's so further exposing the lapses that is also in our intelligence management and also in civil military relations that we are supposed to be having. We're supposed to be having a seamless information gathering from the general public. Is that what we are getting from the people of that particular area? Especially Bagudo local government? Especially even Arewa local government area? Especially Shanghai local government, where we are told that the movement of the people is almost on daily basis. There are places in those areas, and I told you yesterday that when you go to these places, it is the failure of government. You discover there are no functional healthcare centers. You discover there are no quality schools there. There are no functional court system that will also be able to adjudicate when people commit offense. There is no functional tax system. There is no functional local government. So because we have created this hiatus, we have created this gap, and the gap must be filled by someone. This is exactly the gap that these people are filling in most of the places that they are operating. Do you know that even Abuja, the FCT, the center where the entire army, the headquarters of the Navy, the headquarters of the DSS, the headquarters of the NSA, the headquarters of the police, the headquarters of the NSCDC, do you know that Abuja, which is the symbol of the unity of this country, the symbol of strength of this country, the symbol of stability of this country, the symbol of progress of this country, is no longer safe? Our political defense and security leadership is not even about, they are not even thinking about the protection of that place. On March 5, Kungaboku, an area that is near Biazin in Kuba, was where the bandits attacked. They abducted a retired military officer, Bankole Ganiyu. They abducted 3 children and they killed a vigilante officer in that particular place. And again, they were able to attack a Fulani settlement and kidnap 3 women, demanding 70 million from this particular woman. In one case, 16 people were kidnapped, including a pastor and his 4 children, in that same Kuba, in Abuja. If you also remember, in 2024, 6 siblings were kidnapped alongside their father, Alhaji Mansour. You remember that case in Buhari, where they eventually killed a 400-level biology student for ABU Zaria, Kadaria, that became a national outrage for us in this country. Then you ask yourself, that is exactly where the headquarters of the NSA, the defense headquarters, the army headquarters, the navy headquarters, the NIA, the police, the DSS, the NSCDC, and the force headquarters is domiciled. But yet, that is the place that bandits are turning into their boys' quarters. Are we really serious in this country? What hope if Abuja can be attacked seamlessly like that? What hope does Plateau have? What hope does Zamfara have? What hope does Niger have? If the entire headquarters of these particular agencies, these particular organizations that are domiciled with the protection of me, you, Smokey, Ugo, and every other person is still vulnerable, is still not impregnable, then definitely there is something wrong somewhere with our security architecture.
Bello, the Hausa man will say, I can turn a sakwadon ayatameda hankali. In English, it means that you chew gravels in order for tiger not to apply caution. But then, it is the direct opposite of what we are expecting to see. Because, on the other hand, we are the ones that are receiving this kind of deadly blows instead of the opposite side. Let's pay some bills. We'll be right back. Stay here. Alright, welcome from the break. Still political update going on live on Silverbird, Radio 93.7 FM here in the city of Jos. Today is the 26th day of March, the year 2026. And of course, when you hear us yelling and shouting and screaming on top of our voices, it's because something is not definitely right. But when things are right, we'll still raise our voices to comment and to also celebrate. But this morning, we have a lot of challenges, and that's why we are actually bearing out our minds. And I want to believe that the listener out there is also sharing the same thought, because the Vice Chancellor of Calcom University will always say, when you feel pains, you are alive. But when you feel other people's pains, then you are a human being. Bello, I find it difficult to understand where the rain started beating us. And I was just thinking, probably the rain started beating us when somebody actually gave us the narrative and sold out what narrative that bandits or kidnappers were using the phones of their victims. For that reason, they cannot trace them. Then you ask the question, what was the essence of actually registering a phone that cannot be traced? If the owner is using it, you can trace him. But when terrorists are using it, they cannot trace it. And I said, that was one of the what logic that was ever given. Later on, we heard that communities would tell us terrorists came in on hundreds of bikes. Yet we'll claim that we didn't see them. They will go, some bikes carrying 3 people on it. That's about 900, for example, if there are 300 bikes.
Yes.
They will go to communities, carry out their nefarious activities, kill people at will, leave that community, and nobody sees them allegedly.
And you hardly hear that our Tucano jet was actually lifted to go for that particular process.
Now, another issue that was actually introduced that brought us to where we are today, to my own thinking, is the person that actually introduced the so-called safe corridor for terrorists and not their victims. The same person or that person that actually sold a narrative to the authorities that we can negotiate with bandits, and today this is where we are. But Lord, from the day we started negotiating with bandits, that was the day we lost it, because till tomorrow, keep negotiating with bandits, go and check Katsina of all the peace deals that they have entered with terrorists. Go and check what is the propriety of the safety of the people in Katsina, Kebbi, Zamfara, Kaduna, and other places that told Nigerians that they actually entered into peace deals. Bello, you talked about something very fundamental. When government failed to provide infrastructural development and functional facilities that would take care of the needs and welfare of the people, if the non-state actors provide those things, then definitely the allegiance, the loyalty, and the patriotism of the citizens will definitely switch to those non-state actors. We have had where terrorists were said to be giving people money, dashing them as much as 30,000 naira. But look, if that continues to happen, woe betide us. These people don't have a Tucano jet. They don't have a fighter helicopter, Apache helicopter, and other facilities or equipment that our Nigerian Army, Air Force, Navy, Mobile Police, and the rest of them have. Woe betide us the day we wake up and hear that one of our jets has been captured, because we thought these people can never use drones. Today, they are using drones, and it's like their own drones are more sophisticated and accurate than that of our security.
I'm not quiz. You remember when in 2015, 2018 rather, 19, the name Pantami was also brought as one of the names of the ministers. And I said, indeed, we are going to be having a square peg in a square hole. But one of the disappointments after his administration is the fact that he told Nigerians, and I saw Nigerians sleeping in the banks, I saw Nigerians sleeping in the telecommunication areas to ensure that at least they link their SIM to their NIN. At the end of the day, did we see that catapulting into reduction in crime? No, that's one of the failure of the Pantami-led administration. And we thought that Bosun Tijani, who also came up with a lot of antecedent and pedigree, will also bring a new change to this particular thing or sector. But then what are we seeing? So if you're not coming to show me science, you're not coming to show me technology, you're not coming to show me logic, then as far as I am concerned, from Pantami to Bosun Tijani, you are all failures. Because what is the importance of your knowledge in technology if you are not also in sync with the security to be able to track these people that use phones? They also use communication gadgets to call family members. In most cases, how do they even raise money? They go on mass kidnapping, and they also ask state governments to even pay. And we are told that the Kwara state government the last time paid 350 million. Pablo Quiz, do you know what 350 million is? It means more guns. It means more training. It means more sophistication.
Recruitment.
Not for the Nigerian army.
No.
But for the bandits. But if we are able to use 350 million to acquire gadgets, to acquire equipment, to fight these people, drone for drone, science for science, logic for logic, would that have happened in the first place? Number two, you mentioned drone. What does it cost us to have our drones to go monitor after tracking their location, to go monitor the vulnerability of the victim? With the drone, there are drones that don't make noise at all. They will be able to count the number of people that are there. They'll be able to know where they kept the victim. They'll be able to see their vulnerability. After all, the Fulani women that were kidnapped from Kubwa, they eventually escaped from them because they said two people were always guarding them. And that day, the two of them, probably because there was an operation going on around that vicinity, they left the two Fulani women tied. And they were able to untie themselves and they disappeared. So it means that they are also humans. They are also vulnerable. They are also susceptible. Why are we not looking at their vulnerability to see the areas of their weakness? How do they get their water supply? How do they get their data? How do they get their food? How do they get their oxygen? How do they get their medical supplies? These are the questions that a very, very intelligent security will be asking. And the answer to that is in the decimation of the bandits. But in this part of the world, we always wait until they attack a place. Then what do? Then we launch an attack. Then we say, no, we've been able to give them a deadly blow. Do we have a cavalry army on ground? Their own job is not to see two people fighting. It's not to see a young Hamisu, 38-year-old, that says, Ba'amuda Ruwa, Ba'amuda Uta, and go and arrest them.
An interruption of government activities.
On the order of the governor. Because the governor does not even have a job to do. Bandits are disturbing Munya. Bandits are disturbing Shiroro. Bandits are disturbing Birningwari. They are disturbing Bogu. They are disturbing different parts of Niger. But that's not the business of that governor. Papiri is another place. His own business is to see who is abusing him. And he would really be surprised to tell you that it was Mami, the former boss of the FIRS, who is interested in becoming the governor of the state. He will tell you that no, he was the one that sponsored that man. Why don't you provide good governance so that people will not even... What we expect the people like the governor to do was to say, oh my God, thank you for reminding us. We told you we are going to do this during our campaign, because I can assure you that he must have said that to even the people of Suleja. We are going to see what we can do about this. Yesterday I told you our friend Ebuka Obene of Standard Water.
I was coming to that.
Is giving people water. And indeed he all called me after the program that please get me small people. In fact, Tudunwada, to me, I'm sure you are happy. Tudunwada, we are coming to Tudunwada very soon. He said, please let me know some areas too that need water. And I put it on Facebook. And I saw some people. Pablo Quiz, Nigerians are funny. This is not a councillor. He's not your local government chairman. He's not your House of Rep member. He's not receiving constituency allowance. But they are saying, why would you go and give people water in tank? Why are you not drilling borehole for them? Like seriously?
Bello.
You are not asking your member You are not asking those collecting the money that is coming from Abuja. A man that is doing his business that wants to help, you are telling him how to help you?
Bello, in fact, you just took everything from
Come
my mouth.
on.
You know why? Because I was coming up to down to that issue. If somebody like Ebuka, who is a businessman,
A businessman, how many
Decides-
of those businessmen are doing the same thing?
decides to complement the effort of government, then somebody somewhere will wake up and say, why don't you do it like this?
This is
As
not
if,
even going to do anything for the people. Like, seriously?
Bello, let me shock you. Which man might be listening to us this morning? His younger brother might be listening to us this morning. They are stationed here at Donkadbali. They give water to almost half of the community there. But the younger brother said, if you sit down in this office and hear what people are saying outside when they come to fetch water, you not only off the water, you go and break the hose and seal the place so that nobody will come. He said there was a day he was in the office. Some people came to fetch water. There was no light. So it's only the water that was in the reservoir that was coming, and it was coming very slow. Then some people came to fetch. Could you run my by after the sorry?
Just imagine.
When they didn't run the one night.
Just
He
imagine.
said he felt like vomiting snakes, but then he said they are not doing it for those people that are ingrates. They are doing it for those that appreciate it. As we speak right now, they are also giving water to a community. I was there in the night yesterday, and I saw people from that amusement park, from within that axis, coming in the night to fetch water. And I said, what could be better than that? But then you will always have people like this that will make it look as if you owe them.
Pamno quiz during COVID-19, a man, I wouldn't bother mentioning his name, decided to go to a community to give them jero and also maize.
Maize.
Somebody said, why is he not giving rice?
Okay.
Do you know what? I argued with him. I said, do you know that this man also has his responsibility? Do you know what the man told me? Why didn't he sell? So I don't want to mention some things because people will know who I. Why didn't he sell so thing and so thing of his to do that? I said, like, seriously. Because
not
he
your
is
councillor.
your local government chairman.
Not your local government chairman, not your House of
Because he's your
Assembly
rep
member.
member. Can you even be grateful for this jero that you are reigning? It's what some people are using to feed themselves at home, and they are even thanking God right now.
Bello, we have a very silent philanthropist on the plateau that is also doing what the likes of Sadiq Plaza and Ebuka and Pastor Eugene and the owner of Procedure are doing. All this, they are doing it to complement the effort of government. And government needs to also up their ante. We always say this not to denigrate anybody, but rather to wake you from your slumber in case you are not aware. Bello, yesterday I was seated somewhere quietly. Then I overheard people saying, Kai, that if they can have 20 of these people within the northern zone of Plateau, that Plateau will be better. That the man is a businessman. He goes by the name Usman Yerima, somewhere around Katako Junction. He's into business. I learned that he lost one of his security. Then he said, what can he do for the family? He built a gigantic house for them, employed 2 children of the man in his own company. Then I also heard them saying, Kai, Bazamia Mugode Meshiba, because this Salah, both Christian and Muslim customers, he sent one bag of rice to them. And the person that was saying it, he said he was the one that collected the rice. He goes by the name Awal. So, Bello, if people like this are doing things like this, it is just trying to say that even though government cannot do all, we are complementing the effort of government. But can we also see a scintilla of government presence so that our businesses can thrive, so that we can make more profit, so that we can also support the government? Because in the life of Usman Yerima today, that have been doing this thing, I don't even know him, I've never met him. They are doing this, and there is peace, security, tranquility, and business is flourishing. Bello, I can tell you for free, the next time they might even move to another state to go and touch the lives of people. But when there is no security, how do you expect the likes of Ebuka to be able to give water? How do you expect the likes of Sadiq Plaza? How do you expect the likes of the Gazama family? How do you expect other philanthropists that we don't even know them, that they can continue in this trajectory of actually touching lives of people? Let's pay some bills. We'll be right back. This is Political Update. Stay here. All right, welcome from the break. Still Political Update going on live on Silverbird within 93.7 FM here in the city of Jos. We are taking our time to ensure that we raise concern as regards our security, because without security, Bello, whether we like it or not, nothing can fly and nothing can develop. And we are saying this in order to actually pick the conscience of our leaders to ask them, when you leave your house or when you leave that government house, whether as an executive, whether as a legislator, what do you normally tell yourself you are going to do? Then when you close from work and this siren is blaring and you are going back home, what do you normally tell yourself you've achieved? Because whether we like it or not, there are so many things that we need to carry out an appraisal to tell ourselves the truth that we have really achieved this. Now we are giving ourselves another timeline. Between now and so time, we'll be able to achieve this. Bello, if we don't have a timeline on this program, we cannot do anything. Why? Because we'll come today and give people excuses that, sorry, the program cannot hold because we don't know what to tell you people. We go back tomorrow, we come give them another excuse. But because we relate with the people, we go in touch with the people and we get real issues that are the concerns of the people, bring them here and talk about it, and people will always say, indeed, you have spoken well.
We must also look at the judicial arm of government.
Okay.
Because in most cases, you discover that cases are brought before the judiciary after the police must have arrested these bandits. How many of them have been celebrated in terms of their prosecution? How many of the bandits that have killed, that have maimed, that have destroyed have also been convicted at the end of the day? And that's why we should also be able to be interested in the procedure that we are taking in recruiting people to the bench. How do we also ensure that budget autonomy is also strengthened, to ensure that we don't also have a situation where he that pays the piper dictates the tune at the end of the day? How about a disciplinary system that is also supposed to be redesigned to ensure that judges that are compromising, because a compromised judge is worse than an armed robber.
Sure.
A compromised judge is worse than a bandit. A corrupt judge is worse than a terrorist. Once you know this, you definitely know peace. And the bench should know that judging is a public trust and not a career shelter. You are not there because you need money. You are there because you want to better the life of the people, because what you're doing is actually a matter of life and death. And the task of the judge is not to ratify power, but to subject power to law. And a judiciary without moral courage is a bureaucracy in robes. And that's why we should let them know that indeed the job is not just about the symbolism, about the iconism. My dad is a judge. So what? How many people did your dad sentence wrongly? If your dad had been sentencing the wrong people, then your dad is worse than an armed robber,
Than a terrorist.
And our interest right now, and I always ask the question, what is our national interest? Every political science student, every sociology student, every criminology student out there, every psychology student and every law student know what is the national interest. We should be able to ask. That is the core interest that nations pursue in the international system. So what is our national interest as we speak right now? And it should culminate into our policies, especially what we look for whenever we are abroad. Recently, a poll indicated that the two major problems that will form the fulcrum of how the people in UK will vote in May are two.
Okay.
Number one is immigration. Number two is the economy. The two major things are the things that our president was invited to by the royal house, to tell you that these people know exactly what they are doing. And you know that the UK is the home of Adam Smith, the father of economics. The UK is the home of David Ricardo, who said that trade with partners, unlike war, is beneficial to the participating countries. And you know that since the World War II, the royal family of UK has served as diplomatic tool for the British government. They have extended diplomatic gestures to the Americans. They've extended diplomatic gestures to the Chinese. They've extended the same to Japanese. They've extended the same to Ghanaians, to South Africans, to Indians. In fact, during the Cold War. And what's the Cold War? It was a period where war was not fought, but nations were annexing, getting best friends, in case the war is fought later on. So that you can have people that you will be sure that will also be on your side.
Your allies.
Between Russia and United States of America. And everybody knows that the best friend of United States before now was United Kingdom.
Sure.
Queen Elizabeth flew to Ghana to dance with Nkrumah of Ghana. As at that time, Nkrumah was already trying to negotiate with Russia. And that dance alone changed Nkrumah's mind, his soul, and his mantra.
The queenly dance.
The queenly dance changed him from actually doing business with Russia And that was exactly what that dance was meant to achieve. How many dance do we want to actually have to see how we can have more allies in the international system? So if immigration and economy is the reason why they invited our president, then listen to this. 745 million pounds that was given to our president will be used for the terminal modernization, for road access, for cargo storage in the Tinkan Island, in the Apapa port. And they are aware that indeed their steel industry that is actually going comatose will benefit from this gesture. So if you think like Pam said yesterday, that it is free money they are giving, then go and see the revival and revitalization of their steel. Because most of their raw materials come from Nigeria. And they want to revive their steel complex. Again, the deportation of Nigerians who have overstayed. That's why I said yesterday, let's not call them criminals. They have overstayed their welcome. Those with failed asylum claim, undocumented Nigerian immigrants, convicted offenders serving prison terms because their prisons are filled up. Is this not also part of immigration? That they've also really been able to bring to bear to ensure that they reduce the number of Nigerians even coming to learn in Britain. Do you know that now they are opening more campuses in our own universities, more campuses in our own countries, so that the number of Nigerians coming to study in UK will reduce? Haven't they used one stone to kill two birds? So what is our own national interest, especially about security?
All right, we'll talk more on that when we return. Let's pay some bills. We'll be right back. This is Political Update. Stay here. All right, welcome from the break. Still Political Update going on live on Silverbird Radio 93.7 FM here in the city of Jos. Before we take that other story on the Punch newspaper, just to actually prick the conscience of our leaders, it doesn't cost us anything to actually buy surveillance cameras, which, if you ask me, in some cases, they are not more than 200,000 naira to install one. And also, we have young talented people here, even on the plateau, that can manufacture for you high-grade AK-47 that if you're not a professional, you might not be able to know the difference between that locally made AK-47 and the advanced one. Then if we have this kind of talent, why don't we always go for them? We prefer to go outside this country where the king of the Britain or United Kingdom will just tell us something and it becomes a headline. Nigeria know they carry last, and we begin to celebrate that the king said Nigeria know they carry last. Also, we saw where it made headlines when Donald Trump eulogized the first lady as if that has ended insecurity.
In fact, the senator representing Edo North nearly told us to declare a public holiday
because
he said he came to felicitate with the president over what Donald Trump said. And I asked the question, should we declare a public holiday since Trump has eulogized our first lady?
All right.
Maybe that would actually transmogrify into a reduction in the price of rice in the market. We don't know.
All right. Keep sending your messages to 08029710202, and the studio live number will soon be open, 08064641536. Below, if you're ready, let's take the first story on the Punch newspaper. PDP factions open peace talks with Wike, as Wike denies split. Now we are having both sides are agreeing to come to the table. But then, we always say apply caution, because history is a great teacher. And whenever you cannot learn from history, then you will fall so many times and you will keep licking your wounds and keep opening the book of lamentation. Below, the case of Fubara and the assembly members that actually declared that they have defected from the PDP to the APC was not because it lacked merit, but because there was a peace deal that was struck by the president that every court case should be withdrawn. And Fubara went and withdrew the case through his legal counsel. And the court said the case has been struck out because the counsel to Fubara have withdrawn it, not that the case lacked merit. And from the day Fubara withdrew that case, these people now said, now that the case has been withdrawn, they now went boldly to tell the world that we have defected and we have left the PDP. Now we are in APC. Now the man that promised the president, allegedly by Sheikh Makinde, that I will hold down the PDP for you, is the one that is brokering peace. And you ask yourself the question, what kind of peace? And we are telling anyone that cares to listen, if you understand what Wike can do, then you must eat with a very, very long spoon, maybe 200 yards away, because if you are not careful, this is the final straw that will break the camel's back, because this the likes of Wike will never want to take any prisoners. So we are saying that the PDP from the Turaki group should be very, very mindful. Thank God they said they have not withdrawn any case from the court. The cases are still there, but then they will continue on the trajectory of ensuring that peace deals are actually attained. But if the court decides otherwise, which we want to believe, except if the Supreme Court want to do give us another statement, which will be a policy statement going further. But they have told anybody that cares to listen, every political party issue is an internal issue, and the courts lack jurisdiction over them.
But this time around, we also saw the courts interloping and meddlesoming into the affairs of the PDP. Even when the party have said that indeed we've held our convention, but they are now actually saying that no, we didn't hold any convention as far as the law is concerned. We've looked at the Electoral Act, we've looked at your party constitution, and that convention will not actually hold water. Is that not meddlesomeness indeed to the affairs of the political party? But nevertheless, like you said rightly, we have seen Wike tell the entire world that he's going to be supporting the president for 2027. And it's expected that if we have candidates for House of Assembly members in that particular party, if we have House of Rep members, they are supposed to support their presidential candidate.
Sure.
So is that not going to be in contrast to what Wike has already told us since 2023, that he will be supporting the president in 2027? So the House of Assembly members for PDP, now that the party is, whether we like it or not, in the hands of Wike, as far as the appeal court is concerned,
sure,
the House of Rep candidate for the PDP, the senatorial candidate for the PDP, who will they be supporting for the 2027 presidential election? Because it's expected that once you go to the ballot, it should have a permeating trickle effect. If you are actually having your House of Assembly member on the day that the election will take place, you should also support the governorship candidate.
Sure.
If you are having the senatorial and rep membership, the day the presidential election should take place, PDP should support PDP. So now that we are having ultra-vice, someone that says, I am in PDP, but I will ensure that Asiwaju wins the presidency, who will the candidate that will emerge from the convention that he said he's organizing, who will they be supporting from the presidency? I think that is the question that Benga Ruleba and other journalists that are always invited every month to chat with Wike, they should be able to ask him that particular, just one question, and it has a lot of pregnant answers. Because it will definitely tell us whether indeed the reconciliation in the PDP is actually a genuine one, or probably a symbolic and iconic one just for the papers.
But whether we like it or not, we live in a part of the world that some people have actually sold their soul for a plate of food, if you ask me. Because as we speak right now, as you said, and we keep asking the question, if today a peace deal is actually attained by both sides, what will be discussed at the end of the day? When you go for your rallies, would you say, vote for your House of Assembly member, vote for your...
and of course, the PDP will have a presidential candidate.
That's what I'm heading
to. Party.
That's what I'm heading to. Will you say, vote for your PDP candidate as governor, and then for the presidential election, just do your mind? Or vote
for the presidential election, vote for Tinubu. But then the presidential candidate is there with you. So
don't vote for him.
How do you even reconcile some of these things? And that's the doctrine, the philosophy, the template, and the framework that will be carried to most of these rallies at the end of the day.
We want to remind every Nigerian that going forward, because I saw a news headline on Daily Trust where the INEC chairman, who was represented at a function by the head of information education, voter education of INEC recently, that he said that misinformation and lack of trust is what is actually causing this disillusionment and should I say loss of confidence and even apathy towards voting by young Nigerians. But then, Bello, we need to ask the question, can we really trust? Can we really have confidence? Should we trust? Should we have confidence? Because if some of the results we saw in the recently concluded council elections in Abuja are anything to go by, where the total number of registered voters was around 211. But in one of the results, even though we had people coming out to say no, those results were doctored. But then we saw the result with the name of the ward, that's Kwali ward to be precise. And we saw where the ruling party scored 121 votes, but we saw a biro used to actually add another figure to make it 1,212. That means a party scored 1,212 out of 211, even though other political parties scored some votes. Then you ask yourself the question. We saw a lot of this during the times of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, and yet those things scaled through, because ordinarily, if anybody, if even as a banker, Bello, if you have any cancellation, they will not accept it until you sign like 2 times to say that you are the one, so that any day they need somebody to take responsibility, you come and say that yes, I was one that made this mistake, but then I corrected it and this is my signature. But then we have seen some results that even if you like use an x-ray machine, you cannot understand what they actually wrote there, but yet we saw them flying.
Of course, Pamdon Quiz, I think there are 2 choices before the new INEC chairman, Professor Josh Amopitan. It's either he writes his name with the indelible sand of time and he remains indelible in the minds of Nigerians, or he panders to the whim and caprice of the powers that be and he becomes unpopular in the minds of Nigerians. The choice is his. He should actually search his conscience and choose the one that better suits his own whim, that better suits his caprice. And for me, I would advise him to rather be in the minds of the Nigerians than to be in the minds of the powers that be, because they will always offer him all sorts of juicy things to manipulate the election to their favor.
And we don't know, but then Nigerians have been asking a lot of questions. After Professor Mahmoud Yakubu actually conducted the 2023 election, he has been rewarded with an appointment as an ambassador. Bello, we saw the video that has been trending of Mike Igini, one of the finest, if you ask me, in terms of ensuring that justice, equity is served whenever elections are conducted. And he told any bewildered nation, citizen rather, that he spent a decade and other like minds right from the days of his university days and even when he started working with INEC. He said that he regrets all the energy and resources and the brainstorming and the research that they carried out to ensure that elections are conducted seemingly fair in Nigeria. He said right from the day of Gobadier as the chairman of INEC that they already started introducing technology. In that video, he said the biggest problem as far as Electoral Act is concerned to make it seamless is the National Assembly. That each time they come up with this issue of ensuring that every aspect of the Electoral Act that will not allow free and fair election is addressed, once it gets to the National Assembly, they will turn it down and say, no, this should not be put in, this should not be accepted, but rather this should be. And he said, worst of all is when the case is even taken to the judiciary, they turn their back and even tell Nigerians that this thing you are talking about is more like a viewing center where people just go and view. And he said, that's the reason why you cannot have the same result at the polling unit and the same result on the IREV, because a lot of things happen in between interval, and when you have different and contradictory results from the polling unit, what the agent is holding and what IREV is saying, then definitely you know that trust is already destroyed.
Elections are never rigged at the polling unit, Pamdon Quiz. I said it the last time. They are rigged at the collation center. And the distance between the collation center and the polling unit is the result of the manipulation, the shenanigans and the wrongdoings that always happen that characterize our election. Why do most of the gladiators want to be at the collation center?
By every means.
It's because of the fact that they know that that's exactly where manipulations take place. And sometimes you will also see that in collusion with the police, in collusion with the relevant authorities, and that's exactly what happened in most of our elections. And the National Assembly are supposed to be the gatekeepers. They are supposed to be the ones, because they are always giving money to go around the length and breadth of this country to go and get memos from Nigerians. And what Nigerians want is what we expect them to do. This last time, they were in Jos here, where the North Central caucus were able to bring their memos, and they were able to let them know that we want electronic transfer of result real time. By the time they got to their cocoon, whereas the House of Rep in December 2025 were able to unblemishedly said, yes, we want it real time.
Transfer.
By the time it got to the Senate, what happened? They brought a caveat. They brought a proviso. They brought an addendum. No, there should also be a caveat. If there is no network, then there should be manual transmission. Wait until you get to where there is network. That is the lacuna some politicians are only waiting for.
That's where the magic happens.
Only that sentence alone is a reason for another person to rig election.
Sure.
Because even where there is network, the only thing the man will tell you, that is the electoral officer, is that there is no network. After all, it is his word against ours.
It's just like the case of a man who goes to transfer money in the bank. They gave you a teller, or should I say, a photocopy of your teller given to you. Then the next thing is that the person that actually end up receiving the money discover that what you are holding is 100,000 naira transferred, but what actually eventually get to him is 20,000 naira. I said, but I have the slip. They will tell you that go and meet your bank. But when you are at the bank, they'll say, no, there's no problem. So the, what do you call it, the presiding officers, most time, what they give the agents or party agents at the polling unit ends up changing before it gets to the collection center. And once it gets to collection center, the what do you call it, the situation room is always waiting for whatever will be transferred to them from there, and that will become the final announcement. If you complain, go to court. But can the courts be trusted? We have seen 40 bungalows being constructed for judges, both the federal court judges and the rest of them. You ask yourself the question, can we trust whenever we take our cases to such people that the federal capital minister is already building 40 bungalows for them? Then Lord, let's take the last story as we open the phone lines. Nigerian jailed for life in the United Kingdom for murder. And of course, you know that in some part of this world, there are things that they don't take for granted. No matter how infinitesimal you think it is, no matter how maybe ignorantly you think that thing happened and led to the unfortunate incident, as far as they are concerned, there should always be justice for the victim, justice for the perpetrator, and justice for the society, because that is what will lead to people having confidence in the judiciary and also the government.
Quiz is just glaring that in some parts of this world they don't actually joke with the justice system, no matter how highly placed you are. And this Nigerian is Chukwuemeka Ahanunu, and he has been jailed for life in the United Kingdom for the murder of a 56-year-old woman he attacked on the street in Leicester City, United Kingdom, after crashing his car while under the influence of cannabis. And two things or three things are involved here. He drove recklessly, but then is he the one driving, or it is the cannabis that he took that is actually even influencing his driving? That is exactly why we should look at the cause and the effect. Without the cannabis, maybe the man will have known what he's doing.
Sure.
But he actually drove dangerously. He beat traffic light, at the end of which, after beating the traffic light, he crashed his car. He saw this woman going home. She just dropped from a bus, and he attacked her. Maybe he thought she had seen him and she would report him. I don't know. But he attacked her, even used his teeth to bite the woman. At the end of the day, he was actually arrested for assault. The next day, the woman died. So they changed the charge sheet to murder. And they've been able to conclude their investigation, and they've been able to see that indeed the guy, Mr. 24-year-old Chukwuemeka Ahanunu, has also become a murderer. So he's going to spend his entire life in UK jail, and he might be among the first to be repatriated back to Nigeria, because they think their prisons are
congested.
Overfilled. They are congested.
Yeah.
So part of the deal that they signed with our president is that most Nigerians that are actually having their time in jail, most of them that are undocumented, most of them that their asylum is actually questionable, must be taken back to Nigeria. And now you could see that now the party in power, they have told the nation that they will ensure that the problems they are facing with immigration will be solved. And they think Nigerians are the highest in terms of this problem. And they invited our president. You could see what government do. They pander to the whim and caprice of their people.
Then, Lord, we always say that when you go to a table of negotiation, do you just go there and be carried away by the goodies on the table, or you go beyond looking at what is served at the table and begin to think of what will I actually say to these people whenever we go to the real discussions? Will I just be carried away by the wine, by the food, and maybe by the pictures that are snapped? Because whether we like it or not, there was, shall I say, give and take. 746 million pounds, right?
Yeah.
For Nigeria.
Yes.
But then, before we give you that money, you have to accept that some Nigerians will be repatriated back to Nigeria.
Exactly.
Okay. I think that's the much time will permit us to take this morning. But then, Bello, we want to commiserate with the former Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Issa Chingomson, over the demise of his daughter Pamela, who passed away. We say, may God actually grant her soul eternal rest. And also that Jonah David Jan, who is also bereaved. He lost one of his brothers. We commiserate with all of them, and we pray God Almighty to grant the souls of the departed eternal rest, and the family the grace and fortitude to bear these irreparable losses.
I must say, I'm just hearing about Issa Chingom's song right now, and he is a father, he's a mentor, he's a personable personality that I respect so much. And after the program, I'll put a call through to him to also commiserate with him. And that's also the tragedy of life. That's why we should be very cautious about what we do. You remember in Godwin Emefiele, who in 2023 had a presidential ambition, and he was so rich that he had a house that had 753 duplexes in them. People have even forgotten so soon. Today, the same Godwin Emefiele is actually roving from Lagos to Abuja, from one court to the other, answering questions about how he made his money. That's just to tell you that indeed, today you can be as powerful as anybody, that's Firauna, and tomorrow you can just be a Lulubitan, as simple as that. Let's know this and know peace, so that at least we can use power judiciously, we can use power moderately, and the rule of law should be the hallmark and the guide, the principle, as we go about our power struggle in this country. That's my last word, Pamdo Quiz.
All right, that's the much time will permit us to take this morning. We appreciate everybody for your contribution. For those that sent messages, for those that called, we continue to hold you in high esteem. On behalf of every other person that made this program a huge success, Ugo behind the camera, to me behind the Facebook, and also David Friday, who has always been our producer. We appreciate you and hope to see you at the other side of sunrise tomorrow. Do have yourselves a lovely day. My name is Pam Dunquiz. Bye-bye.